What is up, you wonderful people? It is I, Nima, and today I want to talk about Cult of the Lamb, the indie roguelike that you wouldn't want to take home to your mom type game. But before we get into that, I do want to remind you guys to please hit that like and subscribe button, almost at 500. And honestly, I love each and every one of you guys and appreciate your subscribes, your likes, all that good stuff. It means the world to me, and we're building quite the community, so pretty excited about that. Anyway, Cult of the Lamb is the hot new roguelike indie game on the market right now. My thing is I don't even know if I would call it a roguelike, to be honest, but I'll touch on that in a little while. First, I just want to talk about the story, as it is incredibly simple. But you are a lamb, and you are being sacrificed. Like, this is in the first 5 seconds of the game, and your head is literally on the chopping block. As soon as that axe swings, you wake up, you're in the underworld, the afterlife, if you will, and you meet the one who waits, a godlike deity creature who has been imprisoned by the same creatures that killed you. And he has the ability to give you a crown that allows you to rejoin the living earth, as well as form a cult and amass followers. And to repay the one who waits, you simply have to go on a bloody crusade, getting revenge for your own death and also setting him free at the same time. Now, this leads us into the combat of the game, which is pretty simplistic, be it that there's only 3 buttons that you really focus on: the attack button, the dodge button, and something called a curse button, which is really just a ranged weapon. And these come in a variety of forms. See, when you first start a run, you're given a randomly generated weapon and a randomly generated curse. Those can range from daggers to axes to hammers, as well as on the curse side, it can just be projectile or like these awesome tentacles that come out of the ground. But you really don't get to choose which one they are, but I wouldn't really worry about it, as it was seldom that I finished up a run with the same weapon I started with. There's plenty of opportunities to change it out and to switch it up as you run into things like item shops. Now in these runs though, the battles are segmented into different areas, and usually you have anywhere between, let's say, 4 to 6 areas within a section. And once you clear that section, you're given a choice on which path you want to take. A lot of times, they will give you some sort of indication at what lies in front of you, whether it be more resources or another follower that you can rescue. And sometimes, if you look close enough, there's something called the affix system, which will have like 2 times gold or more hearts or something like that. You can kind of see it right under where the next nodule that you need to enter to go to your next section. Hopefully I didn't make that too confusing, but essentially it's an overview. You can see like point A to point B and then point B to point C. And every place that you enter is like another section with a lot of levels in there. Well, 4 to 6. But there's also other rooms in there. Again, there's the ability to get weapons and stuff like that, like curses. Also, though, there's an opportunity to get tarot cards. And these tarot cards actually kind of work like boons, if you will, or buffs, or sometimes they'll give you like an extra heart, or they'll maybe curse you in some way, deal double damage, but you also receive more damage. There's only about 30 tarot cards in general, and I can only remember a select few that actually had debuffs attached to them. Well, as you're going through this whole area, you will eventually run into the boss, and this is usually a mini boss, as there's about 3 to 4 mini bosses per biome before you meet the main boss. And these mini bosses are just as much fun as the main boss. I don't consider any of this to be too difficult, and this is why I have an issue calling it a roguelite, because for me, when I hear roguelite, I think of, difficult long runs where if you die, you're punished for them. As where this, if you die, you just get to keep everything that you had, and maybe your followers might lose a little bit of faith in you, but it's very little, and it's really easy to build it back up. But at the same time, I'm not good at Souls-like or roguelike type games, and I got about halfway through this game, and I started realizing, this game's getting kind of tough. Maybe I should check out the difficulty, because I was just kind of dying more than I thought I should. And sure enough, I looked, and it was on hard. I don't know how. Maybe that's a default setting. I'm not sure, because there is a medium, and it actually says like recommended. So somehow it ended up on hard for me, but it wasn't even that difficult. Like I actually left it on hard because I was like at a point where I was dying more than I thought I should have. But we're talking seldomly, honestly. So this game for me didn't really come off as like hard or punishing. It actually just came off as fun and hack and slashy and dungeon crawler esque. Now the other aspect of this game that I think really merits a lot of attention is the resource slash sim maintenance that you have to do. And that's quite a bit of the game. Basically, when you get back from a run, you go back to your cult, your home. And in here, this is where your followers are hanging out, usually doing deeds like recovering resources for you, or building stuff, or farming, or praying to you to give you more power. And it's really important that you stay on top of these guys, because that's how you build up your power in this game. If they give you devotion skills, which is them worshiping you essentially, this unlocks different paths and permanent upgrades to your area, to your home base, if you will. And as well as when you give sermons and you receive their level up devotion, you then also get things that can permanently affect you as like an extra heart, better attack damage, or like venom, where when you hit somebody you have a good chance of doing poison damage to them. So your strength literally lies within the followers, and kind of keeping them happy is important, but at the same time, if you do it right, you're kind of just taking from them. Now, I'm not a good cult leader, I learned. Like, I was way too nice to my followers. I didn't really see the point of like sacrificing them and doing all the crazy stuff, but the game really does allow for you to, I don't know, bend that moral ground a little bit and to get pretty dicey with stuff, honestly. I mean, I did end up like sacrificing one person because I was just curious what it was like, but honestly, like one of my first followers, when they died, not only is it gross that like all the other followers that see them basically just puke on them because they're disgusted by them, but I set up like a whole ritual to bury them and to hold a funeral, and it was actually kind of sad. I was like, oh, that's my bottom person that I can't say. But yeah, like I don't want to, that sucked losing her. Like there was a lot of devotion and everything else, and she helped, build the cult. And so yeah, like you really do kind of in a way get attached to these followers if you're weak like I am. But the other thing to focus on is the buildings and stuff, because at some point you're going to run out of trees for wood, you're going to run out of stones for smaller stones, and you can get things like a lumber yard essentially, or a mine, a farm, places where you can smelt down different irons and metals and stuff, so you can create bars, which you'll need those later for building stuff, as well as outhouses, which I'd highly recommend getting an outhouse as quick as you can, especially if you're going to go with the farming, which you kind of have to feed your followers. You definitely want to worry about like the poop a little bit. It actually helps fertilize your plants. Also come up with a fertilizer silo where you can store the poop. Out of the outhouses, you're going to have a lot of poop. There's a lot of poop in this game, to be honest. You're cleaning up poop at the beginning, you're dumping the outhouse, you're using it for the crops, but it helps because your followers get hungry. All this stuff is, you really have to stay on top of, as well as like infighting. And it's not as bad as you would think, but they're always asking you for different quests, or you have to give them blessings. It can take a lot of your attention away from the fighting and the combat, as each combat run probably is about 10 to 12 minutes. The majority of your time is actually spent at your headquarters dealing with your followers, as well as exploring, as there's other places other than your headquarters. There's a pretty large map with a lot of different areas, like the lighthouse, where you can actually get other followers, do a little bit of a quest, but mainly you can fish here. There's also a mushroom spore area where you can meet a couple NPCs. There's some shops there, you can buy some unlockables and stuff like that. But for me, I really enjoyed my time with this game. And if I didn't review games as much as I do, I'd probably play this game over at least once or twice to try a few other different paths to go on. Like maybe one time being like the cruel, mean cult leader, seeing how the game really kind of responds with that, or maybe just a different path in general as far as like resource management and stuff. I sort of just skated down the middle. I didn't really lean into one thing or the other, like not too much devotion, not too much of the resources, but just to kind of see how a game would play out that way and just to unlock everything. But I probably won't because I've got a million other games to get to. But for me, I definitely recommend this game, especially if you're a person who likes the dungeon crawlers, the roguelikes for sure, although you're probably going to want to put it on hard. And if you're a person who's kind of skittish with a lot of those games because of the difficulty, don't worry about this game. For one, you can just put it on easy. Like, who cares? You're going to have fun with it. It's hack slash, all those other things about the game that you're really going to enjoy without the difficulty or the stress of dying and having some sort of punishment. Anyway, guys, that's my thought on Cult of the Lamb. I say definitely worth your while. I appreciate each and every one of you. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.